Hi, my name is Megan Campbell from Turquoise Custom Spirits, and I thought I would take you through our creative process a little bit, give you kind of a sneak peek behind what we do here. So, the first thing that I do when we get a new client is we have you fill out this questionnaire, or we help you fill out this questionnaire, and its intended purpose is for me to get to know you, right? Like, you're submitting this thing online, I've never met you before, and I'm supposed to make these beautiful labels and these great flavors just for you, but I've never met you. So that's what the questionnaire is all about, is trying to get your style, get a feel for who you are, what kind of events you might be having. So we have you submit that. And then I take my notes. It's not all digital. There is still that. Sometimes you just got to write stuff down. But I take my notes, I start looking at what you've submitted, I start thinking about it, and for this particular one, I'm going to walk you through. This is a little different because I've already made the label for the client, so I'm kind of recreating it for you guys. So you might see some weird things going on in there. But this one is intended to be for a baby bottle. So for our little teeny tiny 100 milliliter bottles. And then with these guys, you can also do a back label. But that's what I'm looking at for this one. So if it seems like really tiny or like, wow, those fonts are pretty small, it's because it is pretty small. So these are for our baby bottles, and we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll show you what I do. So I've got some, the vodka and brandy. This is what you've filled out. Here's all your flavors. There's some that they're listed in there, but you don't want cilantro bourbon. Like, you just don't. You probably don't. Maybe you do, but you probably don't. And then I have down in the corner, this his and hers. What did everybody put? Did you put both? That kind of thing. And then I have your palette down at the bottom. So this palette that you're seeing is built with the customer that I was working on before. So we're going to go ahead and change that now. So we're going to start with a fresh palette, something that I like, just to give it a little interesting. I don't want to remake the same label right now that I just made for my client. So we're going to get started. I use this program. It's called Coolers, and it's a really awesome just online service for finding palettes and seeing how things go together, and it's very visual based. So we're just flipping through, we're looking at some different palettes. It seems like it's very pastel today. We're starting to get some exciting ones. And we'll just pick something like this. Nice and fun. It's got a lot of bold colors. I think that would make a really cool label. We'll shrink it down. And then I am going to go ahead and change out my palette at the bottom to reflect this new one that we're using. So I'm just going to use the color tool to pick out those colors and change them over. I really like this kind of bars across the bottom. It's very visual. It gives me just like a really quick look at what I want, and it keeps me on task. That's the hardest part about creating these interesting and unique labels, is you start to get in your own head about what you like and what you think looks good, and I have to go back to the palette. So this is kind of my main palette across the bottom. So when you say, hey, these are my wedding colors, that's going to be the main palette across the bottom. But the odds are that I can't just use those colors when I'm creating something, like a 5-color label is pretty limited if I even use all 5. So what I'm looking for right now is I've locked in a couple other colors, and I'm looking for ones that I think would help fill in sort of the blank spaces in these. So I don't have a gray. I'm going to grab a gray that looks really good with those. The pink is that lighter color. And then what I was looking for here is a nice white. So I grabbed that blue. That's a nice sort of sea foamy blue. But what I was looking for a nice white that would go with all of these, sort of like an ivory, but I did not end up finding it, and that's okay. So we're just playing around, looking for our labels, checking out the colors, and then I gave up. I was like, you know what? If I need an ivory, I'll find an ivory. All right, so real quick, we're going to play with that, make sure it looks right, because I'm still working on my my exact workflow. Okay, all right, and now it is just about time to create. So we are going to go into fast mode here because you guys do not want to sit around and watch me do all of this. Now, like I said, I've already made this label, so if it seems like super fast and like, oh, she knows exactly what's going on, it took a lot longer the first time. So I'm going to use kind of a pre-made thing, right, this Nat Geo abstract poster kit, and I'm going to start playing with it. I like this one because it's got a lot of like movement to it. It's got a lot of energy, but it's still very clean and classic. Now this is a really cool tool that I'm using right now where it's the basically find and replace for colors. So I can, for something like this where it's really complicated, it would take me like an hour to change out every color. I can just find and replace it super fast. And then we're going to start playing with our fonts. Now this one was pretty easy since I already had an idea of what I liked. And then these that's the one thing I don't like about doing wedding labels, is that and is always kind of a tricky thing to make it look good. Obviously I'm not using the couple's actual names just because, you know, that's, I don't know, I like to mix it up. But we went ahead and did Jack and Dianne, Life in My Dreams, obviously a reference to the song. Like I said, these guys are teeny tiny, so the smallest I really like to get is about that 4 point is as small as I want to get on here. Otherwise you start to lose things. And then there are some legal things to consider as we make our labels. So we are legally required to have the name of the distillery on the front. Like, obviously as the owner, that's a great thing for me to have on there, but I do have to have it legally as I create these labels. So that's why I like to sort of tuck it in, hide it somewhere. You know, this label is about you guys. I want it to be about you guys. And so I try to make our name sort of as unobtrusive as possible within the overall design. So there we go. We've got Turquoise Sky up in the corner, Jack and Dianne, Life in My Dreams, and I think that's just a really cool label. And like I said, this guy's super tiny, so that is going to be this little baby right here. He'd go on the front of that. So that's a little peek into our process. I hope you like it, and I hope we see you soon. Call, make an appointment, send us an email at custom@turquoiseskyspirits.com. There's a lot of really cool things we can do. We've done fundraiser bottles. We've done gifts for team members at the end of a project or at the end of a season. These, as I said, these are for a wedding. That's always a really great opportunity to sort of put your personal touch on everything. And it is a full consultation, so the couple is going to come to us and they'll have the opportunity to say, okay, I like this label, I like that bottle, I like this other flavor that you made, let's put it all together and then it'll be ours. And if you ever wonder why I work in threes, it's because threes feel really good, and maybe I watched a little bit too much David Tutera growing up on that channel, and it was so right having those like 3 options for people. It's just enough, and we want to give you options but not have you feel overwhelmed. So yeah, that's Turquoise Sky. I hope you like what we got going on, and I hope I see you soon.